Hello, my name's Amy, and today I'm going to talk to you about how I've turned ADHD into a positive. So if someone said to me 10 years ago that I would be diagnosed with ADHD, I'd have laughed at them, because I had been to hell and back and out on the other side and back in hell again a few times. But I'd been given a diagnosis in 2015 of BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And it never really resonated with me. There was a lot of symptoms in there that I thought, that's just not me. I don't resonate with that. And then I went into this whole study about how a lot of psychiatrists, if they don't know what's wrong with you, they just slap that diagnosis on you. Obviously, I don't know how true that is, but that's been quite an awakening experience for me. So this video has been a long time coming. It's taken me a few days to gather the courage. And, 3 days, I had such long, beautiful hair. And then this hairdresser's just butchered my hair and I hate it. So, I've had to find the confidence to do that. I've been going through some stuff with my job. So a little bit about me. I work at Costa as one of the barista maestros. So I'm like one of the sort of team leaders. I run a voluntary organisation called Tea and Tots. I've been doing that for nearly 4 years. Over 4,000 families helped. I'm so sort of humbled by that. I also have won awards for the work that we do. Me and the volunteers, we all do it, and we all do it together, but I started it, and it's been such a beautiful journey. And then in the meantime, being a life coach, helping people who also have been through situations with ADHD, but also I help people with narcissistic abuse and domestic abuse, because I've sadly been through it. I don't think it'll ever define me as a person. But, I owe it to my kids. I've got kids. I owe it to them to be the best version of me so that they will thrive and benefit from that, which I think is pretty cool. So my journey to self-discovery happened in 2011. I was in a relationship with somebody that basically tried to kill me. They hit me over the head with a hammer, which I've still got the scar here. It's just a big fleshy lump now, but yeah, they fractured my skull. And, I don't really want to go into that, but I am very lucky to be alive. There was so much that happened with that it caused this stupid amount of trauma. And this trauma has led me to go down some dark paths over the years. And eventually I was diagnosed properly with post-traumatic stress disorder. I still have issues and anxiety. I struggle pretty much with anxiety all the time. There's the dark side to ADHD that people don't understand, and I don't think they will ever understand. So unless you kind of have experienced that. So you've got so I'll go through it. You've got rejection sensitivity. I find it awful if I am rejected in whatever way, because I feel like I'm to blame, even though it's a them problem. The beauty with ADHD and self-healing is that eventually you become somewhat self-aware. I'm very self-aware, and I love that I can admit when I'm wrong. I for instance, I apologized to somebody the other day. I'd said something really mean, and in the heat of the moment, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm really sorry I said that to you, because I felt awful. And actually being able to say, I feel that I understand people more than ever is just incredible. Someone at my door. Hang on. Okay, right, I'm back. Okay. So I've always felt like I've struggled to fit in places, places like workplaces. I've left workplaces due to the stress of people and being misunderstood. I think that's the big one for most people with ADHD. We are so misunderstood, and we are so we're constantly striving for perfection. I can't even say it, but we're constantly striving for perfection. And when we don't have that, we do take it personal. The rejection sensitivity is a big one for me. But I think, like, especially with women with ADHD, like ours really does benefit to have, like, especially like multivitamins and stuff like that. I have to self-medicate with multivitamins, iron, because my iron levels are always on the floor, vitamin D levels are always on the floor, folate and B12 levels are always on the floor. And so by doing that, I'm actually finding that once I medicate properly with vitamins, I actually feel better. And all around the time of my cycle too, your estrogen levels drop around about the time of a woman's period. So your mood swings are a lot worse, and we struggle to mask that. You know, when I was in my 20s, I could mask quite well. I would give you an example, like I'd go to work, and I still do this now. I'm on high energy, high alert, like I'm this happy, bubbly, hi, how are you? Everyone loves it, you know. And then I get in my car and I just go and just collapse. So there is, you know, a lot to kind of take on with that. And, you know, so to talk about the story about why I want to share about the struggles of ADHD is that the last 10 years of my life, I've gone in this kind of discovery path and, you know, going down that road of I want to heal so that I not only stop hurting myself, but it stops me from hurting anybody else. And I love the fact that I'm very self-aware in that respect. So I lived in Nottingham and I grew up there, and all my life I'd lived in Nottingham, and then I moved to Sunderland when I was 17. I just went, I'm going to move out, and I ran off. And then over the years, I came back to Nottingham, started raising my little family, and then I moved to Burton-on-Trent in 2021. And then when I moved there, I found that I had no friends. I kind of clung to my husband's friends, thinking that was kind of like the way out for me to not feel so alone. And actually that didn't work out. And then I started going to like baby groups, and like, cause I had a little girl, you know, she was only little at the time. And I was pregnant with my son, and like I was going through all of those motions of trying to make friends, and I did make friends. However, by doing that, I then found that the little clique that was within that group did not like me, and they made it very apparent they did not want me there. So because they didn't want me there, I was very depressed, and I started having like panic attacks and didn't want to go out the house. And then at one point I didn't leave the house for 3 months because they basically told me I wasn't welcome. Because one woman didn't like me. That's all it boiled down to was her kid got sick. I told her, like, you know, like at the end of the day, you knew your kid was ill. You chose to bring them to group, which, you know, it was all kind of a thing. And then they all turned on me because I spoke out. And that's been a real lesson throughout my life. I speak out and people don't like it. But I never do it in a way that's like, I'm not being an arse by doing it. It's just I speak my truth because I think it's important to tell the truth, you know. But again, I'm self-aware enough to know if I hurt somebody, I will say sorry. So overall, like it was one of those where I was like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. And so I decided to do my own thing, and that's when Tea and Tots was born. Tea and Tots was born in the June of 2022. I managed to secure a location. And I always remember like the first group that was ran. My son was like 3 months old by this point. My little girl, she was like nearly 3. And there was this gap in the market really, you know, for a group like that. And I remember the first session, it was so full, and I had people complaining about how we didn't have any oat milk or soya milk because we had vegans come, and you know, they were like, what's vegan? And I'm like, I just bought biscuits. Like it was this I was so unprepared, but I had this vision and I just wanted to go with it. But over time, that has got better. We now have dairy-free snacks, dairy-free milk. We have something for everyone. And I love that about tea and tots. Like it became such a beautiful something, you know. It was running for a couple of years and then we got like sponsored by the National Lottery, which was massive. However, I gave all them funding back because there was so much that I couldn't do. And I felt like with these big funding streams and people with organizations like mine, they will know when you have these big organizations, you are so restricted on what you can do. You feel like you're under someone else's ruling. And I didn't want that because it's mine. I built that from nothing and no one was going to come in and ruin it for me. So I gave all the money back. So we do little fundraisers. We do little funding streams and that works a lot better for us. You know, we've helped over 4,000 families, which is incredible. We have referrals from people under social services. We have referrals from midwives and health visitors, the perinatal team, mental health team, with parents that need a bit of support. And being what would be called a voluntary support worker for families, I love my job. You know, and it's even gone as far as I've gone to people's homes when they've just had a baby. You know, I've let mum have a shower while I hold the baby. Like, it's doing these things that are so positive and so wonderful that it's giving back to a community that helped me. And I think that's where it's always been. But having my own struggles, and still to this day, having my own struggles, I find that hard sometimes to do. You know, I find it difficult when I'm not in a good frame of mind. So that's usually around the time of like my period or whatever, you know, and I don't want to do group. I don't want to go and help people. I just want to sit in my bedroom and cry. But I have to kind of pull myself out of that situation. Like yesterday when this hairdresser's butchered my hair, I don't like the way I look. My self-esteem is now on the floor. I don't feel pretty. I feel horrible. And I don't like that because, you know, I'm sat here with my brush, constantly brushing my fringe because I think to myself, do I look better without? I don't know. But, you know, I'm trying to tell you my story, but I'm just overthinking it. And I don't need to do that. And then when it goes out online, I'm going to be freaking out. Like, you know, my hair is kind of hanging on by a thread, but yet yesterday my hair was down here. And I know that the rational thought of my brain is like, hair grows back, it will be fine. Literally give it a month and it'll be like here. But my ADHD brain says you're useless, you're nothing, you're not good enough. But then my logical brain is like, don't be daft, you are good enough, you know. So it is. And again, people with ADHD will understand this. It's a constant conflict all the time. Whatever happens, whatever you decide to go through, you know, what you go through that's not in your control, you will always doubt yourself when you have ADHD. So that's something that's hard. I try not to focus on the label too much. You know, when I start a job, I don't say, oh, yes, I'm riddled with ADHD, because I don't want people to define me for that. I don't want people to say, oh, she's riddled with the ADHD. That means that she gets treated differently, because I just want to be treated like everyone else. But there are times where I'm going to need a reasonable adjustment, which is something that I've had to do in my current job. And, you know, yeah. Okay, so back again. So, yeah, in my current job, I have had to have reasonable adjustments done. And, you know, that sucks because, I felt like, you know, I recently had a nervous breakdown and I cried a lot and I had panic attacks a lot and I felt like everyone hated me a lot. And then, you know, I just couldn't cope. And then it got to the point where I was like, why am I worried about this? Why am I worried about what people think? Why do I feel like this? I should just be happy. I should just be happy. So by doing that, I kind of snapped myself out of it. And then I remembered who I was. I was like, I remember who the fuck I am now. Like, so yeah, I've been told so many times over the years I'm too much for people, but then I'm not too much for like so many people. Like so many people love me for who I am, and I find that so lovely. And I just try to be a good person and try to be a light in the world, because there isn't much lights out there, sadly. There's so much hatred out there, jealousy, ignorance, hatred. Oh God, I could go on and on and on. What's wrong with the world? But when you try and be a light in the world, people do notice. I got called an angel at work yesterday, and I was like, this woman was like, I was making so many mistakes, and she was like, you're doing great. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, there's a lot, but like, you have to turn that negative into a positive. And I think that's what so many people don't do. They take the negative and they just continue in that cycle. Whereas I try to break those cycles all the time so that I don't suffer anymore. So what I'm going to talk about now, what it is that I do that helps my ADHD. I'm going to brush my fringe again. That could be a little joke in this, like, brushing my fringe constantly because I don't like it. I mean, what is that? So I have a diary. This is my diary. It's got my little mood indicator on it, and it's actually I just sit and, do that. But this is my mood journal. I do this, and then I have another one. Oh yeah, I have 2 diaries. This one's fallen to bits though, sadly, but this is 3 things that you're grateful for every single day. So it's a gratitude journal, and I have to do it every day. Even if I've had, like yesterday, I had like the worst day possible, I still had to write 3 things. And like, number 1 was I survived, because there are serious side effects sometimes with ADHD. I've had so many suicidal thoughts over the years, like maybe I should just be dead, and it's a horrible feeling to feel like that. But I do feel like that sometimes, and I'm not ashamed of it. I would never act on it. I've got kids that I need to live for, but I've had so many of those thoughts over the years. And in my younger years, I tried to act on it, but I'm glad I'm still here. I find that my faith has got me through a lot. I believe in God, but I also believe there's more to it. I know that there's I don't want to get into like a religious debate or whatever, but I just believe there's more than what we've been told. And so many people, like Christians, and so many people that I know that like spiritual, they all believe it. Like, there's more than what we've been told. And I love that, because I like astronomy. I like astrology. I love everything spiritual. I love crystals, but I love God too. It's so much that I love, because I feel like there's so much of my mind that needs to be explored, and I find that cool. But yeah, it has led me to want to heal myself so that I can be a better person for everyone else, but also for me too. Yesterday, I didn't feel good at all. And then today I'm like, I remember who I am. And so me and my daughter, she's been off school today. So we've had a really nice morning out, and, and just doing things, reminding me that I am this person, and people are going to like that, but people are also not going to like that. There's going to be times where I don't like my hair. I don't like the way I look. I don't like this, but I'm stuck with this. I'm stuck with this body. I'm stuck with this face. I'm stuck with this hair. There's nothing I can do about it except learn to love myself and carry on being a pillar in the community, carry on doing what I'm doing. And yet, hopefully, one day, I'll get to the end of my life and just be like, I have accomplished everything that I wanted to do. That's what I hope for anyway. I want to accomplish so much. So if someone says to me, what do you want to do in the next 5 years? Well, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, hopefully progress in my job. I'd like to write a book, but having the attention span of a goldfish, that's quite difficult to do. I would like to do more on social media. I mean, I thrive with my little community on TikTok and YouTube, and, I love sharing my stories, being very honest, in hopes that I can actually inspire somebody, you know? And then just do really silly things and just laugh and enjoy and embrace every milestone that comes my way. So, you know, like things like sending 20-minute voice notes, I call them podcasts, to my friends, you know, ranting about life. And I think that's the beauty of life, isn't it? Just being so community based and being a team and being together and acknowledging when you do wrong and being able to suck it up and own your wrongs and also celebrate your wins in life. You know, I find that my mind's very colourful, and I find that I'm always kind of here, there and everywhere. And I've got a big imagination and a big heart, and I do wear that on my sleeve. And, you know, I just want to be accepted by people for who I am. And that hasn't always been easy, sadly. I left my last job because I wasn't accepted, and there was just a lot of awful behavior that led me to do that. So yeah, I honestly, if I could give anyone some advice who's got ADHD and they're struggling, you are beautiful as you are. You are not a bad person for having some spicy brain activity. You're not a bad person. You're a beautiful person. And even if you're not neurospicy or neurodivergent or have anything, you know, relatively going on in there, you know, even if you're just hurt or you are just living day to day and trying to be a good person, and, you know, everyone deserves respect, everyone deserves love, and everyone just needs to be happy. That's literally my life. Like, just be happy. Just, who cares what people think? Like, literally, I hate my hair. Look, I'm going to show you. I'm going to be vulnerable now. I don't like this. I think it's horrendous. It's not what I asked for. I feel like, where is my hair? I don't like it. However, it's okay because it's going to grow back. But in the meantime, I have to wear wigs. I bought a wig. I'm in the middle of cutting it. I'm going to have to show you this wig now. So this is my wig. I think it's so pretty. And as you can see, I've started to cut it and it's not quite done yet. I've actually ordered a head to put the wig on. And then obviously when it's on, it's not going to look like this. But here we are. You know, life is about being fun. And if I'm going to wear a wig, I'm going to wear a wig. And I should be allowed to do that with pride. We're called a Wendy wig. This is Wendy the wig. But yeah, it's about being silly and being fun and not taking yourself too seriously and laughing off your mistakes and being actually proud of who you are. I survived, literally. Like, people are so serious all the time. I survived an attempted murder on my life. I survived that. And I'm here to tell the tale. And it doesn't affect me anymore. Like, I can talk about it so openly because he did not take my life. So I've been given a second chance. So I wanted to share that like having ADHD is not everything. Having PTSD is not everything. And actually just living day to day, whether you like your hair, your body or whatever, you are alive. You've been given the gift of another day. And so embrace it and have fun. So thank you very much for letting me share my story about my mental health struggles that I've actually turned into a positive, because life's too short. Life is so short and precious. And kiss your loved ones and big hugs. Take care. Bye. you know something, I'm going to sit here and pick at my appearance, but we're just going to do it. So, because I don't have a lot of time, but we're gonna pick. We're not gonna pick today. We're just gonna do it. So, here we go. Hi, my name's Amy, and I'm going to call this video ADHD in me, because I honestly can tell you now the misdiagnosis of ADHD and me has been incredible, and I wanted to talk about it in hopes that I inspire somebody, because you know, it's